All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. This is Chris, Infinite Realities. I am joined right now by the one and the only Mr. Matt Fraction. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Is everybody wearing their masks?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, safety first.
There we go. Good.
Yours is 95. Okay, there we go.
It's a dumb way to do an interview, let me tell you.
How you been doing, man?
Yeah, good, I think. I mean, it could be worse. It feels like everything feels like thank each and every one of your lucky stars every day. So, good.
Yeah. Are you still working on anything at the moment, or is it?
Yeah. Actually, I'm just cranking. My position has been that we're gonna get through this. Comics will be back. Comic stores will be back. The world will be back. And when it is, people are going to be starving for new stuff. People are going to be starving for all the things we love about comics, and they're going to come flooding back hunting for this stuff, and in search of new and bigger and better and exciting. And think of how much financial discipline we've all shown over these last 2 months. Fuck, I'm ready to just go spend money on something stupid. Give me something silly, and escapist, right? I've read all my books. I'm fed up. So yeah, I've been just producing and banking, and all of my partners are working when they can, how they can, and we're just uploading to servers. And one day those printing presses will roll again, and things will come back out. But yeah, no, I've written 1, 2, 3. I've written a lot. Because I don't have anything else to do other than teleschool my kids. So,
how's that working out?
Learning curve.
Weaving that into your day, yeah.
Learning curve for sure. But good, because it put us much more into the middle of their educational lives in a way that we kind of weren't, because you sort of hand that over to a school. So we're seeing things that, here's the thing you can work on, here's the thing you can work on, or here's the thing that you do really well, and I didn't know this, so it's a learning curve for all of us for sure. But it's finding some new semblance of normal.
Yeah. And I feel like that changes every single day.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, screen time rules are out the window, but one of the screen time rules is hey, in the afternoons, if you're on screens, you have to be with someone. You have to be talking to people. Don't just hole up and watch movies or watch YouTube or just game on your own. Find your friends and play online and do social. So the kids hang out with their friends virtually in afternoons when they're done with school and stuff like that. And that's how I'm telling myself that there's a little nutrition in Reese's peanut butter cups. There's peanut butter in there. Peanuts have protein. It's great. It's great for you. It's health food. So
before the great weirdness came, one of the most popular comics at our shop that every month we added subscribers was Jimmy Olson.
Oh, thank you.
That was word of mouth here in the store was powerful. So
that's how Hawkeye and sex criminals happened, right?
100%, yeah.
Proselytizing was what fans made other fans. It was amazing to see.
Well, the
contagion of passion and excitement, like a good contagion.
Well, that's the thing. The Infinite Reality staff, we are fans of it, and we are all about proselytizing the things that we're fans of. For me, I love that it is structured like a 1950s, 60s Jimmy Olsen comic book.
Thank you.
How much research went into that? How much OG Jimmy Olsen did you have to reach?
All of them.
Really?
And there's even one issue now. I kind of can't keep them straight because it's weird. I think we're going to have, when DC ships again, I think Jimmy 10 might, it's done. It's finished. It's just hasn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, I think it's one of those, like, we were supposed to be the Wednesday where everything stopped, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But like in one of the books, there's like 35 issues worth of reference crap piled outside of the Jimmy Olson fan club headquarters. Like, and it's one of those, like, I sent Steve a folder of things like, as much of this as you care to put in the background, this is their museum collection, right? So I had two things happen to me when I was doing that kind of reread. One was, and I mean this as the guy actively writing Jimmy Olson right now, those books aren't very good. They rarely transcend the promise of their premise, right? The cover is always the best, or the splash page that starts the kind of big panel that starts each story off. But what that taught me was, oh, you can't do Jimmy as a turtle made of ice cream for 22 pages. It really only works at 6 or 8 pages, right? So like, that was where that approach came from. It's like, all killer, no filler. I don't write. The minute I get bored with the scene, like, I end it. Like, it is, and I will just put in narration, bridging what I need to, and like, it is just beat to beat to beat of fun stuff that I want to do. And that, I think, is like, it's certainly true the spirit of those books. That's what I'm trying to be anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this, there's something magical and kind of wonderful I've discovered about working in the Superman universe. So 2 things. First, I will subconsciously sit up more straight when I am writing Superman. Like, my posture changes because I don't want him to see me slouching. Like, I want to be, I can't slouch on the job. Superman might see me. So there's a weird, when I am writing Superman, there's a weird presence in the room. And now this is, I fly all the time. I let old people cough in my mouth every day. No, I fly a lot. I read comics like everywhere I go. And this has never happened to me before. I was reading Jimmy Olson issues, and the flight attendant stops by and she goes, "Is that Superman's pal Jimmy Olson?" And I go, yes, it is. And she goes, "Did you know there's going to be a new one of those starting up soon?" My husband is a huge fan and he's crazy excited for it. And I was like, ma'am, I know this is going to sound like a line. I'm writing that book. And I'm sitting here just doing research, looking for ideas. And like, I swear to God, I'm doing that book. It is my job. Give me your address and I will get you issues when they come out. I'll send them and sign them and send them to you. Like, I'll send them to your husband. And so I did. And he wrote back, like, just that connection was weird. Right?
Yeah.
Like, of all the things, like, hey, you know that $1 billion Avengers movie? Like, look at the guy reading all of those. No, never brought up. Never came up. Nothing ever came up until that. And he wrote me back the loveliest letter, the most genuine, like, OG fan of Superman and his world, and like shared with me stories about his father. It was just the most beautiful, like, wow. It wasn't just, hey, thanks, but rather, I can't tell you what a treat this is. Here's what these books mean to me. And like it's never happened before. It's crazy. Superman is like comics in an alternate reality, right? It is a elevated, there's something elevated and weird and magical about Superman. And like, I would remember reading like Grant Morrison interviews or whatever and being like, all right, it's a good story. It's good press, right? No, man, that shit's real. That shit happens. I've only had one comparable weird experience like that in comics before. And it was working on Thor. So I don't know, maybe there's something when you get to like God level characters, like weird planes open up to you.
Do you mind what happened with Thor? I'm curious.
I had a dream where I was sitting by a campfire, and Thor and Odin came out of the woods and sat with me and gave me notes. And at one point, Odin got up and left. And it's like, I'm going to go back to the woods so Thor can tell you how he feels about me when I'm not around. And then Thor did the same thing. And they told me what they wanted. They told me what they liked. They told me who they were. They told me everything about who they were and what their adventures meant to them and what they meant to each other. And then, so that's weird, right? That's funny. But you think, oh, you're a writer. Of course, that's fun. That's cool. Your subconscious is working out. At the end of it, they're about to leave, and Thor stops and he grabs me and pulls me close. And he goes, "Give me back my doom ring."
Huh.
And he lets me go. And I'm like, great, man. Doom ring, all yours. You got it, buddy. So I wake up, doom ring. What the fuck is that? What does that mean, right? I can find no reference. I have no clue. And then I encounter part of the Thor myth as it kind of becomes Germanic and Odin becomes Wotan, that there's a thing called a dome ring. And it's kind of like a Catherine wheel. And it was a thing that you were tied to and you went on trial. And if you lost, you would get.
Yeah.
So this thing I had never heard of and never dreamed about, Thor told me he wanted his back. And I knew that no matter how long I wrote Thor or what all happened, it was going to end with him getting his goddamn doom ring back. And then every time I would get on the phone with my editor, it was Ralph Macchio at the time, to talk about Thor, two crows would start to caw so loudly that even Ralph on the phone would comment on it. Like, is that a car horn? What are those? It was the weirdest thing. I would start talking about Thor and suddenly just,
See, I believe in that stuff because you hear Grant Morrison has his story about meeting Superman.
Sure.
Alan Moore has his story. I think he's met John Constantine twice, I believe. So I'm one of these people that, I believe in the power of a story, and I believe in the power of a story to have impact on our lives. So I'm in. Thor talked to you.
Thor and Odin. And like, look, I think that's where my whole time on Thor, it is a story about a father and a son.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it came out of the two of them bickering. Like, that's where it goes. I woke up and I had the approach. I knew exactly what it was going to be. I knew all the character. I mean, I knew what the story was going to be, but I didn't know like what the about was, right? Like, stories are what happens and what are they about, right? I had the what happens. I didn't have the what's it about. And then I was like, oh, it's those two. I got it now. So
where did you love
anyway, similar stuff with Superman. Very weird. Very fun.
So where did your love of storytelling come from? Because again, the way you talk about it, it's a different understanding than someone like me does. Like, where does that come from? Where was that seed planted?
I don't know. I've always done it. I used to, you remember old dot matrix printer paper?
Mm-hmm.
I would tear the sheets singly and then just strip off one side of the dots, and I would take yarn and sew spines, and I would make comics when I was like, as soon as I figured it out, you know? It's just always been a thing. I was always drawing or telling stories with pictures, you know? It wasn't just a drawing, it was a scene. I was always doing it, you know? I think for whatever my makeup is, like, I am somebody that needs to process things outside of my head. Like, I need, there's a diversion somewhere, whatever the bad wiring and gravy that are my brain. Like, I need to route around something and work things out on a piece of paper in front of me, and then they can come back in. Like, I think it's just, you know, part of like being hypermobile or something. It's just a part of, it's just something that I do. I don't know.
So what's your writing schedule like? I know some people are nighttime writers. Some people get up at the crack of dawn. What is your writing schedule like?
I mean, I got kids, so it's pretty, you know, the kids define everything. I am nocturnal by nature, but I did not want to be absent in their lives, right? I didn't want to just see them at dinner. So, like, I have forced myself into a kind of banker's hours thing. So, but, you know, I write when they're at school, and I stop around the time they get home, you know, but now it's all the same thing. So, but it's still roughly the same schedule. You know, we wake up in the morning, like, Henry's a rooster. Henry is like, he'll wake up at the crack of dawn and just like, oh, I'm up, here we go. So, you know, once they kind of get off and running, you know, I drove them to school every morning, and I'd get back here, you know, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 8:30, 8:45. And so I was kind of at the desk, and T got home around 3 and Henry got home around 4:30. And about 5, I would kind of come upstairs and transition into like dad time, you know. And I don't really write at night because I got to get up at 6 to make it all happen again. So
rinse and repeat.
Yeah. When they're off to college or whatever the hell happens in the future, I'm sure at some point I will slowly shift back into like in a perfect world. I'm up till 3, 4, 5 and sleep until noon. Like that's my kind of rhythm, you know.
Well, I got a question here that was sent to me. Is Chip mad that you got to write Batman?
I don't know if he's mad. He's Canadian, so no, he doesn't get mad. But Chip and I are doing a Batman story for Detective Comics 1027.
Ooh.
One of the many things I've written in the quarantines. It is a Batman Joker story. So yeah, we are, and it is like it's straight. Like it's not a, you know, like not making fun of it. Like it is yeah. So that's been a blast to see Chip like flex these muscles nobody knows he has. Like Camille Nanjiani, he is secretly jacked. So that's been a blast to do.
See, I got a question here on YouTube. Someone says, Matt, I had the chance to meet you at Dragon Con a few years ago. You signed my Hawkeye Omnibus. It was the highlight of my weekend, and it's a jewel of my collection. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. That was very kind of you.
That's
Thanks.
Your Hawkeye run, even while it was going on, I think it's safe to say fans looked at it as an instant classic. It is beloved here at the shop, consistent seller. It is an easy thing to put in someone's hand. Can we talk a little bit about how that came about? Were you a Hawkeye guy beforehand? Did you pitch it? Just behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the character when I was a kid. I loved the character when I was a kid because he was the regular guy on the Avengers. And like my first kind of, like I remember kind of getting into like the Elliot Brown drawings of the arrows in the Marvel Handbook, and then like the Mark Grunwald written and drawn series about him. And the end of that, he like the bad guy is using like mind control, and he busts open. He like uses his own sonic arrow like by himself to deafen himself, so he can't hear the mind control sounds, and then he's able to be a good guy. And it was really cool. I dug it a lot. But then the following month in Avengers, he wasn't better. It was like assistant editors month, and the Avengers were going to be on Late Night with David Letterman.
I remember that.
And the whole thing is Hawkeye's leader of the Avengers, and he wants to get Dave's questions in advance, but Dave doesn't like that because he improvises. And Hawkeye is convinced that if he goes on Letterman and he can't hear, everyone's going to know he's deaf and he's not going to be able to be an Avenger anymore. And so he was dealing with his injury. He was dealing with, can I still cut it anymore? And at some point, he got so in his own head, he gets lost in the Avengers mansion and like literally stops at like a dead end and is like, oh, where am I? Meant to go to the kitchen. And that, you know, it was like so human and like, I'd never seen it before. Anyway, I loved him. I loved him right away. Like he's the regular dude on the Avengers, right? Mm-hmm. That was the coolest thing to me. So there was going to be an Avengers movie. Maybe you're familiar. And as was Marvel's wont at the time, they would sort of look at movies as opportunities to put books out, right? Iron Man started, Invincible Iron Man was not the Iron Man book when it launched. It launched with the film. There was another Iron Man book.
Right.
At the time. We were the one that was, you know, only last 6 issues or whatever. And so someone asked about Hawkeye, and I knew from working with David that, well, let me back up. I my first take was a story rather than a series. It was what would end up being issues 4 and 5. Like my first thought was that. It was much more like a spy kind of world trotting, you know. And I realized it was a story. It wasn't a series, and so I withdrew my name, and then came up with how to do it and how I wanted to do it. and knew that David was a huge fan of the character like me, and was like, oh, it's me and David, and I knew immediately what it was and what I would do. And my I was sort of being shown the door at Marvel at the time, but I kept staying there, which kept kind of flummoxed. It was a weird, like they were trying to shove me out, and they wouldn't even pay me my full rate when I started Hawkeye, because as I was told, there's never even been a Hawkeye #7. So call us when you get there. And even though I pointed out, like at the time, like, you guys own Hawkeye, this is the one you should invest in, right? Like, don't pay me my full rate for Fantastic Four, which at the time they didn't, like, you don't have Fantastic Four. Like, you're paying me full rate to do books you don't own. And you're not paying full rate on, like, that's jacked up. Mm-hmm. But not my day to run a company. And then when Hawkeye 7 came out, I gave them a call. And, you know, but yeah, so there were no, because I was being shown out, and because it was a book where it had never been a Hawkeye 6 before, I knew that we would have at least, you know, 6 issues of freedom, 9 issues of freedom, whatever it was, to do something cool and something fun. But it was clear the day the book came out that it was and look, there was no, like, I was the PR department. I made buttons and postcards. I remember sitting in my mom and dad's kitchen in Charlotte, like, stuffing postcards and buttons, and that I gave away at Heroes Con. Like, I
still have my button.
Yeah, right. Like that was, I was that level of you know, PR and marketing. But like the minute the book came out, it was clear, oh, this is way different. This is a different thing.
Well, I just remember it was, for me at the time, because, you know, before having a comic shop, that was destination reading for me. That became one of the books that I would read in the car, in the parking lot of the store. It's like, I'm not going to wait till I get home and get potentially distracted. Like, I've got to know. Wow. So that's what that was for me. And I talked to people that had a similar experience with that. And one of the things that the book did for me exceptionally well was, man, you did dramatic whiplash like crazy in that book.
Sure.
Where I just remember the Russians, they were funny and they were hilarious until they weren't.
Yeah, like, I knew those dudes. Like, that wasn't a joke. I knew those dudes. That's a thing. That's a culture. That is a subsect of gang behavior in certain Eastern European states. Like, that's a real thing. And I knew a guy who communicated exclusively with the words bro and seriously. And like, he worked sound. It was when I was still in advertising, and like, he worked the mixing boards on like live shoots, and you'd look over at him and he'd be like soldering cell phones together. And you're like, what are you doing? He's like, bro, seriously? Yeah, seriously, bro. He'd go back to doing his thing. And it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, but I knew those dudes, and like there's you can find out. I used to know what the word was, and like, I don't anymore. But like, you can find them online. It is a real kind of there's an Instagram account, like, look at this Russian, or look at this fucking Russian.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Lots of Adidas. Like, it is a subculture that I was merely hijacking rather than inventing. And it was a thing, is like, oh, you're a weird clown until you're clearly making black market cell phones.
Like, again, as a reader, it was, you were playing it for laughs, and I went from looking forward to them because I was going to get a chuckle to, oh God, these guys again.
Yeah. Then they beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah. And also, spoilers, man, you killed me with Grills, man.
Sorry.
I'm still not over Grills.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to talk a little bit about Sex Criminals.
Sure.
I think if you've never read Sex Criminals, one of the coolest conceits out there in comics. But you also do some really cool narrative stuff, and I'm thinking in particular the issue where you stop the narrative and it turns into an actual conversation between you and Chip.
Right.
I feel like that was a tool that could have backfired very easily. But as a reader, it was so earnest and it felt
That's the only reason it
so
wasn't.
earned.
I think that's I don't know if it was earned, but it was certainly earnest. And I think that's if it works, it's only because of that. But I still argue whether or not that was a good idea. But
no, here's the thing. Like, everybody we've talked to universally agrees that was a great idea. In fact, Jamie's making the heart symbol right now.
Well, for folks that are listening that don't know necessarily, somebody makes a lot of jokes at a porn star's expense. And they're easy jokes, right? They're jokes that get made a lot by a lot of different people. And it didn't occur to me at the time. And even the character even kind of talks back when she's mocked, but I never really let it penetrate my consciousness. And like writing the book has been an exercise in empathy and like growing my empathy and growing my understanding and compassion for people, and realizing how damaging a perpetuating stereotype like that is, even at the expense of joking, and even making it self-aware joking is still poisonous, right? Like, hey buddy, this is poison, don't drink it. But it's like, it doesn't matter that I told you it was poison, it's still poison. So we came to a moment in the series where that porn star was about to have an inevitable conversation, and everyone reading the book would know everyone's feelings, because it was just the first time these two characters had been together, basically, and had a real conversation. But we knew how the one felt, we knew how the other felt, and they were about to collide. And like, it's so easy to write bad comics, right? And it's so like, I was just like, oh fuck, this is going to be the most didactic, preachy, boring thing to do dramatically, because the point of the scene isn't, we already know, the readers already know what's up. They already know what the conversation is going to happen. Like we're going to see it. We're going to put together what happens. When really the reason it needs to be here is because I feel the need to apologize for blowing it the first time around. And that just kind of came into, well, like maybe I can talk about what I regret. Like maybe I can put it on me. Like maybe I don't have to write a bad 3-page scene with two characters agreeing with each other. You said a shitty thing. Gosh, you're right. Let's be friends-ish. I'll try. I will too. Ugh. That's boring, right? That's just bad writing and I don't know. So like I knew maybe if I can make the point of it that I needed to apologize on some level. And two, there's another character coming that will live a more enlightened kind of lifestyle. No pun intended with the character coming. But we're doing an annual in between our last 2 issues. There'll be a special. And that's kind of, it's about like I don't even know what the word is, omnisexual presence in the book named Sexual Gary, who's like a teen heartthrob, but for sex education. And it's his life story. And it's sort of like somebody who is just attracted, who can find something sexually attractive about everyone. And I knew that we didn't do that story, we're going to be able to do it without judgment. And like, we're going to be able to, like, I'll be able to tell that story in the telling. I'll be able to actually show it instead of tell you. And with 2 characters in a room, it was just telling. And so I had to figure out some way to show, at least, hopefully there's my own culpability in perpetuating this bad thing, trying to make it entertaining, trying to make it funny, trying to get the point across, owning up to fucking it up, but then also not stepping on the story that I had already written about this other character that was going to make that conversation redundant. So it ended up with me being human furniture for Chip and having a nervous breakdown trying to figure out how to write the scene, and then just cutting to the good stuff.
Like I said, I reread it prior to this, and the thing that got me about it was 2 things: the earnestness of it and how real it felt. I know that it was just pictures on a page, but it felt like, no, I'm eavesdropping on a conversation between Matt and Chip right now.
It was very much a transcript.
You feel culpable to it as well.
Right. Yeah, sure. No, we all right. It's so easy to diminish and dismiss the literal humanity of sex workers for the sake of a cheap joke, and it's gross and shitty.
Mhm.
And like yeah, like I did it. Hey, there was a like it's awkward. There's a thing about I've been fortunate to have a career writing, but that also sort of means it's like you're growing up in public.
Yeah.
I put out we're doing a reprint of the first graphic novel I wrote, Last the Independence, and there's like some
Nice.
ethnic slurs in it, and there's some homophobic slurs in it, and I struggled with that, like phantom menacing. Like, do I change this now because I'm a better writer and I hope better person because I recognize this as lazy shortcut writing? Or do we put it out there warts and all and be like, this is where I was in 2001, right? Which we kind of ended up going for. And it's like, it's not a thing I would write again in this particular way. And I know that the me of 2001 would say, but that's how those characters would talk. Like, yeah. So make them better characters. But, you know, we're all of us paying for the sins of our youth in various different ways.
Well, Matt, we're coming up to the end of our half hour together. Is there anything people should be aware of right now?
What the fuck? I'm sorry. Half an hour? That's impossible. I just had that.
I know.
I'm sorry. I ate all the air out of the thing.
That is that's why it sucks being engaging like yourself, right? Time flies. What do people need to know about you right now? Where can they go? Is there any way we can support you right now?
You know, I don't have a social media presence. My wife, Kelly Sue, and I have a company called MilkFed. If you go to milkfed.us, which is our kind of company website, you can sign up for our newsletters or occasional dispatches of what we're working on, what we're doing. I don't know, man. I mean, I'll have when comics starts again, I have a bunch of stuff ready to go. In the meantime, like stay safe, wash your hands, stay inside, give to charities in your area that need help delivering food to food insecure people, or domestic violence shelters, things like that. Help where you can, if you can, and wash your hands otherwise. And don't wear Godzilla masks to podcasts about it.
Well, listen, as someone who reads a lot of comics, if you're watching, you cannot go wrong with a Matt Fraction comic, whether Casanova, Iron Man, Sex Criminals. You can't go wrong. There's a lot to choose from. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for working to keep like the community you've built together. It's especially in crazy days like this. This is really impressive. It's my pleasure. Thank you.